Hey, this is a new series where we cover taxonomic updates in the world of wildlife. Today we're covering herpetology, so that's reptiles, amphibians, and it's a little late, we're past New Year's, but we're going to cover all the updates that happened in 2022 for the United States and Canada. So when thinking about taxonomic updates, we really have four categories. So first is new discoveries. These are things that is pretty obvious we haven't seen before and we found them for the first time. We also have splits and lumps, and these are kind of opposites. So we either take one species and we break it down into two, or we take two species and we lump them into one. And so sometimes you'll get a subspecies that gets elevated to a new species, or sometimes people will find a new species that's like cryptically been grouped up with this other one. And then the last is sort of this like housekeeping, and I call this shuffles. And so maybe something got moved from one genus to another. Maybe we changed the spelling or stuff. There's kind of this housekeeping and this sort of shuffling around, but the species really hasn't changed. So in the last year, we've had splits, we've had lumps, we've had shuffles, but we haven't had any new discoveries. As we talk about these splits and lumps, I'm going to go by what iNaturalist has decided is elevated to a species or not. Now, iNaturalist, it's a very user-friendly app, and it mostly follows the amphibian species of the world that's published by the American Museum of Natural History and the reptile database, which is published by Peter Utz. So there are other organizations that do have definitive lists, but these are the ones that I'm mostly following and looking at how they've sort of elevated and changed. Now, you may be familiar with Schechter Natural History's Guide to Reptiles and Amphibians. You can see the site there, but it includes most of the updates that we're talking today. I just published a new update that includes a lot of the splits that we have, a lot of the lumps, and it's only sort of missing a couple things, and we'll talk about that later. So first, let's talk about shuffles. We only had one shuffle, and that was for the Blanding's turtle. It moved from the genus Emys to Emydoidea. Now, Emydoidea just means similar to a turtle, and the Latin word for turtle is Emys, so not much of a change here. Next, let's talk about lumps. There were two lumps of note here. One was the New Mexico blind snake. This one got just completely lumped into Rena Dulcis. The other one was the Slowinski's corn snake. That one got downgraded into a subspecies. As for splits, there were actually quite a lot, and it was very active in the salamander world. The first thing we'll talk about is the coastal Plain Cooter. The coastal Plain Cooter, or the Florida Cooter, it has some other names, got upgraded from a subspecies to a full species. Now, this is a turtle that's fairly widespread in the southeast. You can see the range here. Next was the Blackbelly Salamander. That one got split up into a bunch of different species. So Desmognathus quadramaculatus was split into 4 species. The Blue Ridge Blackbelly Salamander, the Cherokee Blackbelly Salamander, the Southern Blackbelly Salamander, and the Kanawha Blackbelly Salamander. There were a couple other splits. These ones have not yet been added to Schechter's Guide to Reptiles and Amphibians yet, but as more information comes out about them, we'll be sure to update it. So the Ocoee Salamander got split into 4 species. Now, we keeping Ocoee Salamander. That one hasn't changed too much, but its range is going to be more isolated. We have the Cherokee Mountain Dusky Salamander. We now have the Great Basalt Mountain Dusky Salamander. And the last split of this was the Chattanooga Dusky Salamander as well. We now also have the Pascagoula Dusky Salamander. This one was split from Desmognathus valentine, which was actually recently split just, I think, the year earlier. And the last one we're going to talk about is the Carolina Swamp Dusky Salamander. This one was also split and is now its own species, Desmognathus valtos. The world of wildlife is ever changing, so be on the lookout for more updates from us. I'm Greg Schechter, this is Schechter Natural History, and I'll see you in the field.